It's a fine tradition.
It is a fine tradition. Let's keep it going.
I'm sure they want to be chair, we say at the meetings when people are.
Yeah. Oh, Vance.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm sure.
Do you want to move the elections and schedule down?
Sure. Sure.
Chair sounds good.
Yeah, because you'll be gone early, so we can elect you.
We're electing you again.
Yeah, I've heard that one. Why don't we start with the, I don't know if we have any, do we have to, the official call to order? Someone
Do it.
Let's call it to order, start. Vince is ready. You can just breathe heavy. Can we approve the agenda and late items?
Do we have any late items?
Not that I'm aware of.
No, we're just going to rearrange the order.
Okay.
Yeah, we
So
can
I
do-
would like to move that we move section 4, elections and schedule, down to just above information items, which is 6. Anybody want to second my motion? Okay, there's a bunch of them. Then you say all in favor.
Yeah, all in favor. Very good.
Okay. We're
And
taken by
and as a
consent.
point of order, just for information, welcome to to yourself for being here. But more of a listener advisor as opposed to we have had people before that were more wanting to direct and run. No.
I won't run.
I know it's fine. We won't
No.
like that.
I'm-
You don't
I'm-
get to run that. I
I'm
liked how
all-
you
I'm
handled
all-
that's fine. I'm not suggesting that you stop. All I'm just saying is, I guess I just thought I'd put it out there because we have had in the past some stronger push from council than from some of the members, and they didn't get a chance to voice their opinions.
Oh gosh. Well, I'm here in the public interest.
Absolutely.
I'm here as a member of council to liaise.
Yes.
I think that's how I see my role. I'm also here as a member of the Islands Trust Executive Committee, who has a heritage function in preserving unique communities as well as protecting the environment. So that's partly why I was interested in being on this excellent committee. So that's me.
Thanks, Yvonne. That's great. Look forward to it. We have minutes from November meeting, 2017, so you can see we...
You
We meet
guys!
so often.
I could just make it all up.
I'd say that since it's all done and the pub's existing, we're going to probably walk away from that one.
Yeah.
I think we can approve the meeting. Can someone
Second.
second? There we go. Terrific. Love how that moves along. Thanks, Vince.
Any comments from the other people who I'm not supposed to interrupt?
And
I'm just wondering, I'm seeing other people looking at the minutes.
No, I'm just waiting for the vote.
Okay.
from 2017. The next item is public comments, and we're going to have some public members speak, but they're the applicants. So when we do have their, I think it makes sense that some of their information that they want to give with their plans and their application, it'd be great to do it at that time. So I'd like to pass by section 3, since the only members of the public are the applicants. Which I think brings us to new business. Sarah? DP 16.
Clicker? We're going to my chair now. Sorry, what's that? Then we have a great new graphic on the front of it. Here we go, from the beginning.
So I'm here to talk about 2 development permit applications that we have in the Village Periphery Development Permit area. They are lots 7 and 8, both on Miller Road in Village by the Cove or Snug Cove House. in the village periphery development permit area, there's specific requirements. These 5 that are listed here are mainly related to landscaping and vegetation, maintaining a green rural backdrop, minimizing the obstruction of views, blending in with the natural features, having small-scale building forms, and having parking screen and setback, and buildings reflecting the character of the nearby village commercial areas, and as well in this development permit area, you can vary siting if the council agrees. So as well, there is design guidelines registered over the titles of all the properties. So these go into even more details than the development permit area in terms of materials, building heights, color scheme, landscape design, grading and drainage, and building design and siting. Okay.
What does VBTC mean?
Village by the code. Oh, sorry.
Sorry,
It's okay, another acronym.
That is why. So the proposals that the applicants have put together have included all of these requirements as well, and as the process they've gone through, they've had that signed off already by the Village by the Cove. They had a design approval officer that looked at those. So the first one is lot 7, that was the corner lot. So they're proposing roughly 2,500 square foot stratified duplex. So there's 2 units, obviously, between 2 and 3 bedrooms. This is a graphic of what they are going to look like. They have included their landscaping plan, so they're putting in permeable pavers, rock walls, and some other features like fencing and whatnot. So that's one of the things that we're looking for guidance on, whether you believe they've met the development permit area. They've also included their plant list, so incorporating native species and drought-tolerant species and whatnot. And I took some pictures from the site because one of the requirements of the DPA is to kind of blend in with the character of the neighborhood and not impact views. So this is currently what they look like. Hopefully that will help you visualize whether you believe they will fit in with the surrounding area and whatnot. So in terms of the finishes, materials, and colors, roofing will be asphalt, gables, cedar shingles, upper floors, hardy bevel siding, with a kind of bluey and gray color scheme in general. You can see it right here. It's this one, in case you can't tell on there. But yeah, those are what it should look like. I think there was some more detailed information in there actually about the color scheme, and hopefully that will help you visualize it a bit more as well. But basically what we're looking at here is kind of feedback on whether you think it meets the requirements of the development permit area, including does it incorporate native vegetation suitable to the building site? Does the design of the building minimize the obstruction of views and blend in with the natural features? And as well, does the building reflect the character of the nearby village? So just looking for some feedback on that. I've drafted a recommendation, but obviously if you have any recommendations or anything you'd like to include, you can add to it or change this entirely, whatever your thoughts are.
I guess I have a question.
Okay.
From the plant list, the landscape plan is prepared by the proponent, right? So how do we know that the plant list is viable planting? How do we know? Just a question.
This was a question I had too, was the specifically rhododendrons along that bottom bedrock wall in the rock. However, I know there are some that grow in the sun. Is that what you mean by viable?
Yeah. You know, whether it's drought resistance, because this is a multi-dwelling development, and that's going to be very important for the visual character of the neighborhood. And then, in addition to that, its hardiness for the conditions in that location, I guess. And I don't know if there's anybody more expert on landscape.
And I will admit I'm not the expert by any means.
I'm not either, so that's
Those are some good things to consider.
Could I Steve, do you have a comment on the reasons you chose, the plants you chose? I don't know if you heard what Gary was saying, his worry.
A little bit, yeah. I researched the plants and what's native around here, what I felt like would grow well, and I also borrowed a bit from what I get from the City of Vancouver, their plants, kind of what's drought resistant, and what grows well in this area. So I just researched it, and it's kind of the list I came up with.
Like I see some names that I recognize, but don't know the landscape.
So you see some,
I see some plants that I recognize, but
oh,
not being
okay.
a landscape architect.
Oh, I see, okay.
I usually rely on others. Yeah.
No problem.
Through the chair.
Oh, please, go ahead.
Just looking at the plant list from a naturalist perspective and one who knows what are native plants around here, I would just, I mean, I have no design credentials. I'm my vegetable gardener, but I would say Western sword fern is native, but I don't know, very few of the other ones are. And however, in that spot, I'm not sure what you could get to grow. My suggestions would be to look more at the drought tolerance side of things. Maybe these will be fine, I don't know, but English lavender and boxwood, those are, I don't know, I also don't see anything on here that looks like a invasive plant to warn you about either, so I'm just saying these things look like they would need deeper, softer soil, but I'm gonna leave it there.
Well, Slough and Burgundy, they grow on the forest soil.
Yeah,
So,
so long.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at this plant list on page 9 of 64. Where are you guys?
38.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm looking at the top of page 9 of 64, which lists gardening ones, not the, okay. Thank you.
Page 30.
That's why it's up.
Oh, you know what? That's the,
There's a column there that's ticked that says if it's native.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Drought
So
resistant.
those, the ones that are native, but generally, they grow in the forest around here. So I
Yeah.
don't think it's-
And these are, so these are recommended ones, the ones that you're reading, page 9.
Hey, Randy.
But are different than the ones that, somewhat different than the ones that are shown on here.
If that's in my note, it might have just been like an example of some of them that were being selected, I think.
It just,
So I guess if it's
where
not a
did you say
criteria,
page 30? I still haven't said that.
Oh, yeah,
Page
picture
38.
38.
Okay, thank you,
Yeah.
sorry.
Here?
sorry, I guess if it's not a criteria overall for this development, you know, then we can't really hold the proponent to that higher standard, right? If,
Well, they say they're gonna put this in, so they're gonna, like,
Yeah, I
you know, they're gonna have to
understand.
landscape
Yeah,
the area and,
Right. But there's not an overall specific design guidance for landscape design on this overall development, right? So it's difficult to hold the proponent to a
Yeah.
standard that we don't have.
Well,
That's what I'm saying.
you have the development area guidelines that you can
Right.
follow, which it does say native species.
Sure.
but
native
You
species.
can interpret
exactly.
that however
Yeah.
you
Well,
Yeah,
will, right?
it's pretty
So
loose.
that's what it's saying.
native vegetation.
Yeah.
And, you know, notwithstanding, it's a blasted out.
Parking lot.
Yeah, the words there. So whatever's gonna be put in there is gonna be, and the site coverage is what it is. There's a very small side yard and you're not doing much. So, I for one think the suggestions are good.
Mhm.
And that's one, you know, from as far as that, go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, I don't see anything, I mean, gardening is a tenuous thing anyway. I mean, you move towards things that are drought tolerant and so on, but often that's an experimentation,
Yeah.
given the site and everything else. And I don't think it can be really too strict, as long as it's it's not unrealistic. And it's not like people, if something dies because it's not drought tolerant, things when they're young tend to be less drought tolerant and have to be watered more until they're established. But it's not like people are gonna leave it, they'll plant something else that's maybe more appropriate. It's an evolutionary thing. Garden ultimately is.
Swell.
I'll just make one more comment, and it just relates to, partly, I want to help you avoid problems, because having tried to grow rhododendron macrophyllum, that's the Pacific rhododendron that you've got on your list. It's not native to Bowen, it's native up in Manning Park, and in the deep shade, and where it's damp, snow, and stuff like that. So I've tried to grow one on Bowen, it didn't work, and it was also really hard to get one, to find one.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So I just
Yeah, it's also depending on-
want to flag, don't buy expensive plants and have trouble with them. That's part of my problem.
Oh, man, part of steel.
The other thing is a question for the panel, is when people commit or propose to plant plants on a list like this one on page 38, I could see the work that's gone into it, having made lists like this before. Do they have to how do we know that they plant them? Like,
Well,
because the type of rhododendron that is planted could make a huge difference to the visual appearance of the site.
so basically what I understand, and this has been in the past all through the Cove, there's always been a landscape drawing and discussion with what going to be, if tree's going to go here, ground cover's going to go there. I can't answer if, do we have a landscape policeman? I don't think so.
No.
I mean, we don't have any of those kind of things. So it's part of the DP. One assumes that when the job's finished, ticking off the boxes, did they put their lighting in? Did they? Is it the right colors? Is there some landscaping in there? It all gets ticked off. Otherwise, they don't get their fine.
Right.
And that's, is that right, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, so in DPs, the municipality has the ability to, we can bond a property. So if something was a key piece that you said, well, it's really important that this rhododendron or this plant, this tree establishes itself. Through the DP, we can place a bond on it and we can say there's a, $1,000 bond that we'll keep for a year and we'll check.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever done that, but it's good to know that that's existing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's standard practice.
Exactly, yeah, but I mean, isn't there also just sort of a performance bond anyway? I mean, isn't there, you get back something?
There's for the building permit.
Yeah,
there's for
so
the
to
deposit.
get the final on the building permit, the DP's gotta be
Yeah.
approved too, right?
Yeah, the issue being that, at that point, the plant can be little, so you can, the bond gives you the ability to sort of stretch it out a bit to
I see,
something
yeah.
established. The other thing is just the rhododendrons are coming, so the design guidelines that the Village by the Cove has on title, that they enforce speaks to rhododendrons, so that's probably why we'll
Yeah.
see rhododendrons on everybody's landscape plans, because they've said, we really want to see rhododendrons in this.
Okay,
Alive,
well then,
yeah, yeah,
thank you,
yeah,
that's
no,
very
it's good,
helpful.
yeah.
And then I would just
like flowers and
flag that particular rhododendron species, it's a species rhododendron, and just be careful not to waste any money.
Are you suggesting that there's other species of rhododendron that are more appropriate, or?
Not native ones,
Okay.
there'll be garden ones.
Right.
I don't know, I just suggest that one of the best things that the proponents might consider is to find a good, ask a garden center for something that looks like one of those. So it looks native,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or has a wild kind of character, or whatever you want. Otherwise, you might get some that are like bright orange or something, I don't know. Because rhododendrons can
Yeah, yeah.
have an enormous range, so I'm just trying to help by
Totally,
saying.
and I think it's
Well,
really
watch out with
important
that one, yeah.
when we make our comments back about, doesn't make any sense to have this great landscape plan that's not gonna work. So what I understand from this is there are opportunities to grab from this list, and once the structure's in place and they've got the pavers in place and they're starting to do the fence, they can create the areas. Again, like with all the places we've dealt with in the Cove, it's pretty minute, the areas that can
yeah.
be landscaped, and you're not gonna want something huge when you've only got so many feet between, you gotta pass between
Can
the
I
two
say,
places.
rhododendron macrophyllum gets up to 30 feet high.
Right.
So, or
Yeah.
something like that. It's big. It's over your head.
Yeah,
But I like the fact that there's room here to position the planting according to how much depth of soil you've got. Because Tony Astor, for instance, needs next to nothing, and some of the other items on the list need quite a bit of depth.
But you'll be bringing in soil for that. From what looking at the site, it's pretty much.
But there will be
Yeah,
areas
yeah,
where
right,
you just
exactly.
can't fit much.
Right, and that's fine, then you pick a
Yeah.
plant that's gonna work.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or you keep it further down. Yeah,
If
thank
I
you.
can just comment, if the landscape design is substantive in the development permit area, shouldn't there be a landscape plan, like a planting plan and all the rest? 'Cause
Isn't
this
that
is
what that-
really just a diagrammatic plan. Like, I don't know how to evaluate this as it is.
I mean, I think,
Without the plan.
yeah,
So,
You're on page 36.
it's on another
yeah,
page.
page 36, yeah,
They did,
the landscape plan.
Wow. Do you mean this one here?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's very general,
but
but
it,
it's what you
It's
have.
not indicative of what the planting is, so it's, I know a lot of work goes into these things, but it doesn't give you anything to evaluate.
I just know that in situations where I've watched people try to force a planting plan on an area where they can't fit enough soil, there's a lot of
But
death to
You-
the plants.
you design it and you put the planting where it should go.
Yeah.
And then you grade the site accordingly, right?
True, when you're not filled with almost completely bedrock.
Yeah, but come on, every property on the island is bedrock with topsoil in it of some sort, right? So,
True, not
It has
many
to
of
be
them have
handled
a
somehow.
planting plan though, yeah.
I just wonder how onerous we need to be in that regard.
We need to.
Yeah.
That people, if you say you've more or less got the species that are amenable to, they're not big water users or anything else, shouldn't it be up to the individuals to be able to be creative with their garden? That's part of what gardening is.
Hoping so, yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, it
do the
becomes
planners
kind of
have
draconian.
a recommendation on that? You've reviewed this, and how do you recommend that the information be evaluated by the planner in that regard?
I think we would be more onerous in terms of looking for detailed plantings on a commercial, like in something in the revitalization area than in the periphery.
Okay.
With much more, with those are at the design guidelines, are much more detailed.
Yeah.
And this, our one line is sort of native vegetation being incorporated.
and less than that, it's actually native-like.
Does it need to look? Yeah.
Is there a height
Got
limit?
even more wiggle room than that.
Picture you on there, Ellen.
Those are the ones on top.
Right.
Yeah.
Native
Like the
light.
intent is to have criteria as opposed to, yeah, I feel good about that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but if that's the criteria, then
Yeah. Yep, Sue Ellen.
I appreciate these questions, because I don't mean to be hard on any applicants, it's just I'm trying to figure out how I mean, this is a design panel, right? So I was wondering how it works and how you decide without saying that it's okay for everybody to do everything, or is some people get stricter guidelines than others, and so I'm looking for.
What we face is actually quite varied. Some of the applicants might come in just with signage concerns, in which case we kind of refer them a lot to the sign bylaw, whereas most of what we deal with is of an architectural nature, and we're commenting on colors and knee braces, and does it, for the most part, fit the intent of the guidelines. Landscaping is a little bit more of a gray area.
It's sort of like you might get a little corner on a commercial lot where there could be a tree and there could be that. And when you look on the sides of these types of lots, and they've got concrete stairs all the way up one side, and there's no possibility of any kind of landscape there. So in this kind of a situation, like as Daniel said, you'd be more specific, if you will, on a large commercial or even a small commercial, as opposed to this is residential.
but let's keep in mind that this development was negotiated specifically with postage stamp size lots. Very high density development, so it is not your typical development application. Like,
Typical?
this is as dense as most Vancouver neighborhoods, like, or
Yeah.
denser.
Yeah.
And where they have design control with professionals involved who are certifying the landscape design. So I don't kind of buy that this is Bowman Island and we get this and that. Like, the same criteria.
I don't think we need to go to that each applicant's gotta get a landscape architect
maybe
to
not,
stamp
but
the
it's
situation so that we can be guaranteed that the native-like plants are gonna be planted and they've got a 5-year life expect, you know, I mean, Gary, this is getting a little too extreme in my opinion. This is,
Well, and to Jeremy's point, they're homeowners.
yeah,
They want to landscape their property and deal with their plants according to their own desires.
if something dies, they wanna take it out and put something else in. Do they
Yeah,
have
it's
to come
just
back
not
for a
working.
DP? That doesn't make any sense.
No.
It's different in a commercial context. People have gardeners come in to maintain the thing, and
Yeah.
the whole intent is different. There's a strong personal element and design element. If you like gardening, if you don't have any control over your garden, well, there's no point.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, you really do. It's a creative process, so you have to allow that in a domestic context. I mean, yeah, it can be very, very broad or ought to be very broad in general in the context of domestic or residence, but commercial, definitely. I just don't see. There's no point in gardening if you want to garden. You want to be creative and expressive of that, and rather than bound to a series of a rigid framework.
Well, I think the way it's been put together with the intention of using certain species that make sense seems to be kind of a nice model for how something that doesn't have a lot of room to plant could expand beyond just this project, but actually see that with more teeth into another similar development if there were another.
In the course of creating this, of course, that could all change, because when you see something in the flesh, that's what gardening is about. I don't see anything essentially wrong with any of the submission in that respect. It seems all, an effort's been made to be compliant, and why not allow latitude and expression as a gardener, being one myself.
So the.
So I think at this point,
Do that slide?
Yep.
Great.
what's that?
I just have one comment.
Care should be given, I recommend that care should be given as to the types of plants and make sure that they can conform to the site, because as Jeremy said, as you're finishing up that site, things will change. And you'll find a little place, you know, like looking at the topography and what they're gonna create, there's only so many spots you can create a good landscaping, and I think they've addressed it. I for one think that the overall design fits. They obviously fulfilled the obligation of the design guidelines. They've been approved by the society, and yeah, they should get going.
I concur.
Okay. So I think, I mean, I don't see that we've made any drastic changes to this, so can we have I think we can just pass it.
Well, I think the applicants are also dealing with a very tight space and making the best of it. It's not an easy situation. We're not used to small,
Well, I think
tight
it's
lots.
smart that they're side by side and hopefully built at the same time, because it is not an easy thing, as you well know, to work in a tight constraints like that.
The other guy's a month ahead of you and you back in with your wheelbarrow.
Yes. Oops. Exactly.
I have questions. Can I ask questions?
Gary, yes, please.
I just for the performance, what's the exterior finish in the carport area underneath the building?
Did you hear that?
Sorry.
What's the exterior finish in the carport underneath, like when you go underneath the building? you know?
And the inside,
Gordon that.
Sorry?
Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry, I didn't hear that?
the ceiling would probably be part of it,
Some big part of
and then the siding at the back would be Gordon that.
okay.
And the exterior foundation is gonna step with the site, and I imagine there's gonna be a bit of variability, right? But it looks like you've made an effort to keep the exterior cladding down close to grade, wherever grade is, which is good. You do have an exterior insulation system on the foundation wall that means that that exterior wall is not gonna be just hard concrete, which is good too.
Can you hear Thomas? Come on.
Maybe we'll
Sorry. Maybe I can
speak.
speak directly. Like you have an exterior insulation on the foundation wall, on the exterior, and I don't know if that's like where the foundation wall steps. Because the topography is random, you gotta deal with the stop of the board and batten, and then the exterior insulation below it, which would be exposed, right, in some situations, so you gotta deal with that condition where it's exposed.
Yeah,
So it's either like a EFIS type thing, or it's not insulated or something. It's a transition along the grade that is often difficult to deal with.
according to the drawings, they have concrete cement board over rigid,
Oh, do they?
for the vertical over
Okay.
walls.
All right, sorry, I was looking at the detail. Okay, on page, whatever, 8H. That's it. Generally, the form and, like the openings and the pattern of claddings and everything, it's really cool. And the color scheme, I think, is great too. It's really nice, very attractive.
Somebody have something? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm just looking at the questions from staff here, and I'm wondering, we haven't talked about minimize the obstruction of views and things like that. I imagine that was all.
It's pretty much, I mean, you know the site. They're-
Hey, I was on the council that approved all this, so I'm
Yeah.
just asking to see whether that's the kind of thing this committee, what could we say at this point? I mean,
It doesn't block any view. It's below Bowen, what do they call it now?
Bone Court.
Oh, it is below Bowen Court.
Yeah, and we're not talking about blocking internally views.
Yeah, it's from
Yeah.
behind, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
thank
right.
you.
That was from, yeah. Okay, so
So that the committee support the application,
Yes.
following comments, the application complies to the overall design guidelines, and that care should be given to the types of plants chosen so they conform to the site.
Mhm.
all in favor? Passed.
One down.
So moving on to
It's
the
an
next
awful
one.
lot of paper.
Fairly
Yeah.
simple.
Actually,
Yeah, there's lots.
sorry, I'm just, I found it. Good.
And there may be duplicates in there actually, because I think I included the design guidelines for both.
Yeah, you did, right. That's okay. I'll just keep turning.
Yeah.
So what page is it?
53.
Their page ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so this one again, lot 8, right next to lot 7, for under 2,500 square foot stratified duplex. This one has 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms in each unit, medium size. They've included their landscaping plan and plant list, just like the previous applicant. So we can go through that in a minute, talking about it. Again, this is what the building form looks like on site right now. So you can see Bowen Court is partially behind the lot, but the units there are quite a bit set back. In terms of finishes, roof, asphalt, again, wood doors, hardy board, beveled siding, and using shades of green and gray, as you can see on the board. Yeah, they included some color textures, which is also very helpful, so you can get visualization of that. So again, the same considerations are coming up. Looking at the vegetation, construction of views and reflecting the neighborhood character.
Again, I see the variety of plantings. Everybody see that on this page here? So you got the drawing plus also the words as to the types of ground covers and sedge. Sedge, huh? I thought that was German measles. You don't.
What, so that's
Or rubella. Sorry, it is.
Yeah, don't touch it.
Yeah, I guess that's it. I like the colors. I think it'll be fine. You get a better sense of the how it sits in there. What do they call? What is this page? That one there. Any of the panel members have any questions, comments on the design of the structure?
Yeah, I have a question. The exterior columns and guards, they look like some kind of heritage design, and I'm wondering if that fits with the character of the design.
I think it does. It's been approved by the society, and it certainly fits with what we've looked at.
Is that clear natural wood, or is it?
Tyler, can you speak to that?
I'm just going to point out that this drawing was done way back at the beginning. The architectural is the accurate what's getting.
So this is more for color?
Like the stupid columns, they're not there.
So that's for color.
That would be initial kind of.
For color.
Essential. So this is mostly just color and.
Oh, I see.
And then the architectural, you see that structural engineer change the columns.
Oh yeah, I can.
They're in there as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
They're not,
Yeah, I
that's
see
the
it.
more accurate build.
Okay.
Whereas this is more just color and stuff.
All right.
Concept. Okay.
Yeah, where you've got the diagonal bracing and such in there.
That right? That was when we went through Robert.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Changes.
She caught
Okay.
that already.
Yeah.
I saw a big knee brace, but maybe it's just like an intersection, two knee braces. Yeah, it's just two knee braces. So, I guess this drawing, or this building like the other one, the topography is going to vary, and so you got to deal with the finish of the wall at grade, wherever it occurs, and that's always tricky on these kinds of sites. And this, is it a concrete foundation wall that's shown on that drawing, elevation drawing? Can't find the number, sorry. Page 57.
What does it look like, Gary?
It's
I'm just,
three
what's the
concrete
picture?
retaining walls, page 57.
Oh, that one, okay, fine, thanks.
And they're, I don't know, 4 feet high each. or 5
Gotcha.
feet high.
Thanks.
It's just a side yard, right, so it's not very wide.
Well, it's really not.
Very small.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the impact is probably minimal, right? Really minimal. And it's planted in 3 tiers, so the planting's gonna cover that
Yeah.
retaining wall, right? Not a big deal. Usually try not to have too much height with retaining walls, right, for that reason.
Yeah.
It's intrusive.
In the landscaping plan, trust me, I noticed in here you can have gas-fired fireplaces. Where is the tank proposed?
Do you, just, is it a propane fireplace?
No space from this last.
Backyard.
And if, so, oh, you put a small bank in the backyard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably
Right.
Shielded.
Right, where that patio area is?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Did you have that, Ronnie? If
In
you
the
look
back
at,
area?
yeah, behind, yeah, on that upper one,
Okay.
there's an area there with a, yeah, thanks for that, Sarah.
So they, like, just a small tank?
It would just be a small tank.
Because it's not for general heating, it's just for ambient kind of thing?
Yeah.
Is a fireplace just for
Unless you have a deal.
a fire, or is it for heating? Is heating?
When the power goes out, it'll
They
be,
can put a, when it's
Every
minus
2
10, not a long one,
Yeah, yeah.
a fat one there. There's lots of room behind,
Yeah.
just put it in there.
You can you get to the upper yard?
Yeah, they can walk up with the stairs beside you. And it's amazing when they can deliver them. So I think the comment would be that, Ron, that's a good point, if you were gonna have a propane tank in the backyard, it'd be nice if it was screened as part of the landscape aspect, so easy,
no,
I mean, you're gonna do that anyway.
screened, it just needs to be designed in somewhere where it's gonna go.
Right, exactly.
And if it's a duplex, you've got 2 tanks?
Yeah.
That's right. But then it could also just be, 40 pounders.
Yeah.
Right, that's simple enough, they just have to march them down to the building center.
Yeah.
Not as convenient, but certainly.
I did it for 10 years.
Yeah,
Worked.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, exactly.
I have one,
Yeah, please, go ahead.
just the same question as before. The Village by the Cove design guidelines in the planner's report says the first one is landscaping proposals should generally incorporate native vegetation. But the list that's provided, the one that's up on the screen, I don't see anything there that's native.
Is it native or native-like? Sorry,
Well, the page, I'm,
where did you see that?
I'm seeing this on the
So
top
our,
of page 8 of 64.
yeah, so our design guidelines that are in the land use bylaw for the periphery are the ones that talk about should generally incorporate native vegetation. The Village by the Cove guidelines are the ones that are on title that, like, just this development meet says native-like.
Native-like, okay.
Oh.
So
Right.
ours says generally incorporate native vegetation, and the ones on
Right.
title say native-like.
So as a, I'm just trying to figure this out.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too.
Okay, so we're, as a design panel, which ones do we use?
The ones that are on title?
The ones that are gonna
So-
live.
I mean, so.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
These are our guidelines. We've included the other ones because the applicants have had to meet the other guidelines,
Right.
which are much more detailed, and these are very general, right? So we've included them to say, this is what they've already had to meet, and this is the standards they're working to. And
Right.
So that we're not, and then you're gonna ask for something that jives with what they've had to meet through the developer. Okay.
Okay.
Is the door onto the front deck, is that a sliding door or is it a French door? Yeah. Is there some way you could make that into a French door? I only ask because all of your doors and no, not all, but a French door is more the tradition-friendly design door as opposed to a sliding patio door. And just a thought, like that's your only public, whatever, face of the building.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that sliders have a lot of advantages over French doors, like screening.
On the other hand, you can have a French door 100% open, which is nice.
Yeah, without the wind being a factor. Was there a requirement to do a cistern in the project? Is it like a common cistern, or is there one per unit, or? So the
rainwater collection?
Yeah.
Yeah, they wanted separate, so it's one per unit.
One per unit? Did they have a size for it?
Yeah, they do have the size, but I don't think they've identified how we're gonna deal with that yet.
Yeah.
Because on the engineering drawings,
It looks like there's enough room in the backyard if you've got enough
That's what we
depth. And then it helped keep plants alive.
Right.
No.
And there, Mike?
Yes. Oh, above ground, right.
Right. On this one?
Yeah.
They also have rock drainage thing.
For erosion.
Yeah, it could be. You got them showing their time, right?
Yeah, that was the conceptual.
Yeah.
That's the drawing that.
Yeah.
Basically,
I understand. It's,
Robin took that one and tore it apart. So
yeah,
If you can bury them, it gives you more room. Sure.
yes, that's good.
Is the board on the right, is that this project?
Yes.
So any other comments, or are we ready to put this to a vote?
The only comment I have from
Okay.
it is that the application program has been designed.
As part of the landscape, you know, incorporate it into the landscape design, because it'll be out there. Yeah. Screen from, just screen, I don't know, from public view, because there's no public.
It's a screen from you.
Yeah, like screen from view.
Yeah.
I think
So
that's
that
better.
comment was just,
Yeah.
the ADP support the application with the following recommendations, that propane tanks be incorporated into the landscape design or screened from view. That's the only thing I captured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if we could, if the group thinks that we could reflect the municipal village periphery development permit area guidelines, which say incorporate native vegetation, even if we were just to say something about recommend
Yeah.
native type.
Regardless of native
Plants?
like in the wording. Yeah.
Well, that wording is not what the municipal wording
Mhm.
is, and I think as feeling my way into this committee, if one of the roles of the committee is to provide comments to the applicants that reflect what the municipality wants to see.
Well, certainly in a precedent manner too. The more we make effort to suggest the wording maybe isn't perfect, the more future applications will not use words like native-like, which in a sense are potentially kind of meaningless.
But if the, if, I like what you're saying, and
I'm-
where you're
yeah.
going, but
Yeah.
if in the same time, the stuff that's on title against these properties
Is there?
is not the municipal one, but the one that that they have, aren't we now sort of superimposing something on them that we shouldn't be putting?
I don't think so, because I think they're compatible, right? If the panel says, you know, we want you to revise your plantings to have more native vegetation, that's in keeping with the design guidelines.
It's fine,
around
I mean, I just
right?
wanted to make sure we
Yeah.
weren't, you know, lumping
Yeah.
too many layers into it.
Yeah, I'm feeling my way as well. so
Oh, no, it's
thank
fine,
you.
so, it's
So-
great.
I think it's wise because it is a bit of a wedge scenario. Where you see, if you start removing, I mean, there's so much effort on Bowen to try and stick with native and regional planting.
That's right.
To see it erode would be unfortunate.
But there is also the element, that the distinction that this is a domestic
Mhm.
rather than a commercial.
True.
To me,
True.
that says that there should be more latitude
Yeah.
for preference of the owner.
Something like
Yeah,
that.
but it's a development permit, it doesn't matter what type it is, what use it is, it's all the same.
It
No, but I
doesn't-
mean, I think then that exposes a weakness in plan, in my opinion. I think there should be a distinction between domestic and commercial.
Mhm.
Because the
Yeah.
whole intent, as we were saying before with the other.
Well, no,
about
the
gardening.
intent is not to allow owners to do whatever they want with their landscaping. It's clear from the design guidelines as to what the
Well,
municipality
what I'm
expects.
saying is that exposes what I think is is when, I don't think it's appropriate to apply that broadly, and that should be changed.
Why not? This is a special development in a almost village location.
Because,
And it's been set
because
that
you
way
have a
in the
domestic
design
function
guidelines.
versus a commercial
Yeah.
function, and I see that as important.
You may, but it's not the development permit criteria.
No, but that's what I'm saying is that it exposes, I think that
In the
we,
future, we should revise the
we should,
development
exactly.
Yeah.
permit.
But then you're just
Because
gonna
you
get
said it's a
willy-nilly
liability.
whatever people want as opposed to native-like or native-type vegetation.
Yeah.
That
That's
doesn't
why,
work.
that's why I
Why
was
can't you have a
suggesting,
mix?
that's why,
Because you need to regulate it, otherwise you won't get a mix.
Yeah, but these typical situations is regulated by a strata, which is,
No, not every project has a strata.
You're gonna put in all of this planting, right? The
Planting.
planting that's,
Mhm.
once you put that in, that'll provide, it's sort of the guidelines. Now, you're not gonna stop individual households from planting roses or,
No, however, in
Items,
5 years'
whatever.
time, when there's another application on Miller Road, the municipality will revisit the success of this development. And if it all is just willy-nilly, then things are gonna change radically, right?
I will say just where we distinguish right now is we distinguish so single-family homes in the periphery area are exempt from development permits. But as soon as they become multifamily, so a duplex, then they trigger the need for the development permit.
And so,
That's how it's-
single
It's way
family
more
ones being
intensive
built
use
right
of
now,
landscape.
Yeah.
do they have to abide by anything?
So they still have the same guidelines on title, the Village by the Cove,
Right?
but they don't require our development permit
They
because
don't
they're a
require
single-family home,
these
not a
ones.
multifamily.
Right, but they can, then from, it seems a little bit crazy if you will, the single-family homes in that same street,
Yeah.
as small as it is, have a different set of rules than the duplex.
Why?
Well, because they do.
It's a different use of the land.
So I mean, in terms of, drawing the line, that's where the municipality is drawing the line,
Yeah.
in terms of what we're regulating and not. So
Well, so
it's,
I disagree, but that's my comment, is I disagree. I think we leave it the way it is and have it as, it states in the Sun Cove House design guidelines that it is native, and we can make our native type, we can make our recommendation that the applicant adheres to as much of the native type as you can, but I can't see ramming it down and just this whole, you can have 6 places where they have a different set of rules than the neighbors within 30 feet across the road. Doesn't make any sense to me, but that's my,
It makes total sense. It's by development. The development permit requirements are different.
Yeah, I'm just comparing it to situations that I've seen like this before, where a neighbor plants something and the adjacent neighbor doesn't like it, wants him to take it out, and he says, well, make me. And then they say, well, who can I talk to? And if their neighbor's in a strata, of course, the strata gets together and says that's against strata rules, you can't do that. If there's a development permit in place, then you're dealing with a much larger body that you need to get an approval or disapproval from. Barring that working, you're facing potentially lawyers, paying money to get an answer on this in the end. And ultimately, I have seen situations where the homeowner gets to do what he wants. Regardless of guidelines, development permit, if it's a plant and it's being done reasonably, it happens, and they aren't made to take it out.
we can't, all we can do is approve it now. We can't buy it in 5 years.
No. So spend the money on some decent plants.
ones that'll live,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
So is that comment going to be something that anybody will second, or?
Well, you should read it out, what we have here, Steph. I
That
don't-
the ADP support the application with the following comments. Same as the last one, the application complies with the overall design guidelines, and that propane tanks should be incorporated into the landscape design or screened from view.
I had a comment
I'm
about
not super
the
clear on what you guys
front
landed
door
on landscape.
as well.
Pardon?
I had a comment about the patio door.
Patio door, so instead of sliding door being swing furniture.
Yeah, I don't know that we can, we can certainly put down in the minutes that you have that opinion. I don't know that we can tell the applicant to change all the doors to.
that doesn't allow the sliding. They will want an exit door that's gotta be swung. That's what I
It's
just
a
went
deck.
through.
It's up to a
It's
deck.
a deck.
It's just the visual.
It's just the, the one on the deck.
I mean, if you, in my
Well,
opinion.
it's for the panel to decide, not for me to decide.
No,
That's my
it's fine,
comment.
I need to, you should put your, I just,
I have it in the minutes, in the notes.
I'm just looking for any language in this,
If it's all right, yeah.
I was just gonna make a comment about the
Yeah.
door. The reason we went to sliding was to meet is to help build green and
Yeah.
it's better seal.
Thermally.
yeah,
Yeah.
Measure height.
right.
That's why it can be switched if it must, but that's.
It won't be as easy to meet the criteria.
No.
No.
it says, the only thing it says about exterior doors will be solid core wood or insulated metal. You can do that with sliders.
Mhm.
Nothing in terms of imagery.
Sue Ellen, you have something,
Yeah.
just always searching.
I'm just wondering if Steph, did you read up anything about the plantings?
No,
Yeah, and you
we've
said.
used a
the-
lot,
right,
so
yeah.
what do you
So,
want?
my comment would be, or the suggestion that I would put forward if the panel agrees, would be, that, landscaping should generally incorporate native-like plants.
And I love it that we hit that heavy. It is that we've said should hit the design guidelines, but when we say again, the plantings, it's, because it's inherent that it's in the design guidelines, they have to
Yeah.
adhere to it, but by saying it again, we're drawing attention to it, saying, so do it right. Do it,
Yeah.
do it this way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's milder than municipal development permit area guideline, which says native.
Yep.
So I'm just going with the native-like, so that's my motion, if you want to put it
We
like that.
can have those words, can't you, Steph?
I
50%.
can, does everyone agree to those words?
Yeah, I mean, you could get technical and come up with percentages, but
50%.
let's leave it height and light.
Plant area.
50% of the.
Plant-like plant.
And in a general, the other part
They never
is,
die.
you know, we start doing
No
that,
plants.
we're gonna have another municipal employee that's gonna have that certification to be able to go and say, yeah, that lap, that makes it, no, that one doesn't make it, sorry.
My intention is to keep it workable for
Yes.
both the development permit and the overall neighborhood there, and also, though, to capture the idea of the native vegetation that's in the development permit for the whole village periphery.
Yes.
And to remind everybody so that everybody knows. That's all.
You know, and
Because
that's
I
why
know
I
it's
say
gonna
it
be,
twice.
I know it's gonna be
better.
tricky
Yeah.
because it's blasted rock. I don't know how you can get anything to grow on there. It's gonna be a challenge.
Oh,
And some of the places are gonna be,
98% half native.
You don't go-
98.3.
No,
I also think native-like can be something that's been selected or, you know, a plant that has been selected through the years to be very tough and drought tolerant, but it looks neat. And that still fits in with this, right,
Yeah,
design
I agree.
guideline. Like these are natural type colors.
Can we go to the flip side of this and make terminology to the effect that no use of invasive plantings, as opposed to supporting natural like? We can actually pretty absolutely say no invasive plantings.
Yeah.
well,
And there's a pretty
Then there's
strict list of those.
a defined list.
Yeah, like ivy.
Yeah, exactly.
right. Nothing.
Native E.
Native.
Invasive.
The landscaping should not incorporate invasive plants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, you can do that, but it's sort of, since invasive plants aren't in the design approved
Guidelines.
guidelines, I think it's
Right.
It's great to have that conversation. Do we need to add that as a statement?
Right, it's not even in there yet.
Mike, I'm sorry, but
That's quite all right.
okay.
I'm just.
I'm happy to say that we're
Just
gonna
love
have
that
the right
word.
kind of plants. I don't think we have to get so.
Just like the word.
He's like that.
So we've got landscaping should generally incorporate native-like plants. We're back to that. The
Yeah.
third bullet,
Sounds good.
3 bullets.
Do you want to give all 3 and then we'll just
Yeah.
vote on it?
Application complies to the overall design guidelines, that the propane tank should be incorporated into the landscaping design or screened from view, and that landscaping should generally incorporate native-like plants.
All in favor? Passed.
For the election.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you, applicants.
Thank you all.
Well, you can stay.
Yeah.
Yes, Ronnie.
I don't know if it's appropriate for this committee or not, but there was an approval to move the propane tank for the distillery that was going to be buried in the front yard, to move it around to the backyard. There's a 5-foot setback in the backyard with no access to it, because he's built up to his property line, and he's put in the propane tanks that are, stick out 3 foot, so there's only a 2-foot access going by, and theoretically, he's supposed to have a bunch of trees in there planting forest. So he can't get out, his exit is blocked. And maybe this is not a design committee problem, but a building permit problem. And he can't fill the propane tanks unless he goes on someone else's property to do it, because it's blocked in the back, either my property, the parks, or the neighbors.
Can I suggest that this might be a conversation that might not be happening in a public meeting, because it's sort of talking about a particular project?
Well, that particular project asked this committee to do it, and we recommended we went to the front so that he can service it and it would be buried. And somehow he applied then afterwards to put it back on the back, and I guess it was approved. I don't know. And I'm just pointing it out to this
No.
committee, or maybe
But
it
it
should
came through when we looked at it in the front and how to screen it, whether to bury it,
Yeah.
make sure that it had
Venting.
blastable, ventable top,
That's right.
et cetera. So somewhere between
It
then
was
and now.
part of the amendment we did by email had that change in it.
Did it?
Yeah, and as part of that, I referred to the fire chief and the building inspector, and the
Yeah.
public works, all of whom inspected the location.
And they all, and then, so that's, and so it went on to those
Yeah.
levels.
Yeah.
Okay.
All of whom signed off on it.
I just wanted to point it
Yeah.
out to you
Yeah.
from the community standpoint, because it's awful fun. If they build next door to us, the restaurant, up to the property wall,
Yeah.
he can't get access to it without going through the park.
Or through his building.
Yeah.
Was that grouped into that money with the signage?
Yes.
Missed that.
Yeah.
I got hung up on the sign.
Exactly, we were all talking about the sign.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things in that project
Yeah.
that we thought we
It can go through the building.
Yeah.
Didn't know it was gonna be all black.
Yeah.
Black signing,
That's
black.
like corrugated
Black.
siding either.
We looked at one drawing where it had wood in the front.
Yeah.
Put wood in the front. All the rest of the building is black.
Yeah.
At any rate, that, I
No,
just
it's a good point.
point that out.
Yeah.
And thanks, Daniel, for passing on that. So obviously, if it's going to go through there, then to the best of your knowledge, just, even though it's not part of our, it's past us.
Yeah.
So we were just asking for information.
Yeah.
So now it's in the
Yeah.
hands of the building department, the fire chief, and public works.
Mhm.
Okay. So that's where it is. Maybe if you have more questions, Ron, you can direct it to Ian.
Yeah.
Go from there. They'll have an answer for you.
Yeah, and to your other point, I'm curious, I don't recall what all that black vertical stainless steel metal was going to be. I can't recall.
Well, he indicated that it was gonna be the surface, but he only showed us the one elevation, and that's the
Yeah.
only elevation he put it on. He didn't put it on the rest of the building.
Yeah.
That's a total surprise, looks really industrial.
Well, and you compare it to almost virtually the same cost, essentially, the side of the pub in the corrugated Gowland.
You hear more
That's
people
far
comment on that
much
than anything else.
Really?
Yeah.
But it just
All the time.
Does
Yeah.
staff require all the drawings to be submitted for DP at that time? All the elevations?
I think so.
Oh, yeah.
I don't-
Because we certainly approved that, and the concept of public art being placed on it. It's like a perfect spot for a big marquee of some sort.
This
Community.
I don't remember.
Copper Spirit Distillery,
Yeah.
so yeah, it was in with that grouping.
Thanks for finding that, Vince.
Where, do you want me to put it on the screen, Vince? Is it an agenda?
It was,
I think it's too late.
Yes, it's past us.
Yeah.
It's past us.
Point
I mean, I
before.
can, but it is interesting, I mean, for all the years, we've seen DPs come to us, speaking about this committee, and we make our recommendation, then that's it, we're gone. It's out of our hands, it goes to council, it goes to planning, it goes somewhere else. All of a sudden, something happens, that's not what we said.
Yeah.
Or what we thought was gonna happen, something different. Some application comes back and they wanna do something else to the building and they haven't done the first one. So, we're getting better.
Yeah,
We're getting better, that's all we can say.
I
You
use
can
the
always send
analogy.
it back for revisions.
Pardon me?
It can always be sent back for revisions.
That's right.
if It's not
Yeah,
That's
acceptable.
true.
That's right. That's
I mean, at the at the first ADP.
yeah.
I always kind of look at some of this as a speed limit. It's posted 50, so people go 55 instead of 60. It's posted 60, they go 65 instead of 70. It's like the native lake.
That project has an architect, so there is a registered professional
Yes.
concerned for that project. So if it doesn't comply with the development permit, there is a recourse, right?
But it does
Nobody gets
comply
away with it.
because
It does,
we've-
because we
we've-
saw it.
We've seen it and we
Yeah.
passed it. So
Because we were caught up on other things.
it's.
Is it exactly as we saw it?
It's exactly, how it is exactly how they've done it in the drawings here. And they've
What they-
even
what they said to us.
clouded what they've changed, so
In what they sent to us.
Okay, yeah.
we,
No, it was just a
we
question.
approved it.
Yeah.
The black looks good at night.
I'd like to see
There's
it,
nothing
I'd like
wrong
to
with
see
a
it,
black building in and of itself, but.
I'd like to
it's
see it
really one of
finished.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it finished.
Precisely.
That's the other thing I'd like to see.
Yeah.
Let the code get back to sort of some semblance of normal around there.
March, I heard March. Actually, I heard that it's operational now.
The back,
Factory part of it
it's
is
operational, the
functioning.
back, because for code, it's two buildings.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
the distillery, the back's a separate building from
Yeah.
the front building, the back building is operational.
yeah.
Even though
So
they, oh, okay, they're
that
too.
one
Yeah.
there exits out
Yeah.
that way, so there's one exit out.
Right.
And I don't think that,
Can you take a propane line through a building to
Yeah.
fill a tank?
I don't see why not.
yeah,
It's just a long,
You can.
it's just a long
Yes.
hose.
Plumbing.
I don't know
Yeah.
the legalities or who's gotta be closed
Closed
down,
down
or
or
you're going through a
anything like
kitchen,
that.
you want all the gas
It
turned
has
off.
to be a gas fitter.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
just done. Maybe
Yeah.
they even run a line up to the front, can they do that?
Yep.
Just hook it up to that, just as if it was a fire hose they're hooking up?
Same as a
Yeah.
natural gas.
Should be fine. Okay.
Well, actually, that would be the solution.
That would be the solution. I'd
Wonder
like
if
to
they
get
did
to section 4 on the, as much as this is interesting. I'd like to
Yeah.
get to section 4, only because dinner calls.
Yep.
Apparently, we have to have an election.
Every year? Is it a yearly one?
Well, I have no idea. We make this up as we go along, I think. I don't know.
It's in
Oh, sorry.
It is every year, right? It's
Yeah,
every
it's the
January?
first meeting.
Personally, I like your name change. XXX.
No, I have to say that, I'm amazed that I'm at this meeting, so I'm having trouble making meetings because of my traveling and being a grandparent. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, I've been part of this committee since, I'm gonna say the 80s, so I'm gonna have to say I'm not running for chair, so as I take one step back, someone's gonna have to step up. I'm ready to vote for someone, though. So, anybody love to jump into the chair?
Type in your name.
God, okay.
Okay,
Yeah, oh, there you go. Oh,
wait.
oh,
No, I was gonna nominate you.
Oh, yeah.
Ah, boy. Oh, you need a vice chair. Oh, do we have to do that formally?
Yes, of course.
I'd like to formally announce that Mike's the new chair. We all vote on
Oh,
that?
yeah.
Do you
I
want to
second
take,
that.
do you want to go back only one step and become vice chair?
There you go, there you go.
Slowly work your way down the ladder instead of jumping.
Won't stop me from talking.
Yeah.
Are you the
Ready
chair
for
now?
it? I am now the chair. Okay.
Soon to be.
Uh,
Meeting's not over yet.
That's right, true.
Okay.
I get to have my last gavel.
Yeah.
So Mike, you get to pick a vice.
Well, I would nominate you, except I know that you're busy.
I just feel like I will let the side down if I'm not, and that makes me crazy. Like
Yeah.
I was in Victoria and I went all of a sudden, if this meeting was last week like it was supposed to be, I couldn't have made it, so I'm happy to be here now.
Well, I'm thinking longevity and duration. Jeremy, you've been here for a long time.
Not that long. Well,
Look at this,
Comparatively.
I'm just holding him here, so.
Yeah.
Well, I recommend Jeremy, if he'd like to stand for the vice chair.
although I will warn you that I'm very, very poor at these things. I was chair of the Parks, Trails, and Greenways Committee at the time, but I always,
We heard great stories about
I
it.
can't imagine they were flattering. Yeah,
It's good.
All in favor?
Accept that nomination.
All right.
There we are.
Yay.
There we are.
I know Ronnie's sitting on a whole bunch of committees, so.
He wasn't, he wasn't.
I don't mind sitting on it, I just can't be part of it.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. My last thing would be to say, are we gonna have any schedule of meeting times? We just.
So
Go ahead, please, can I have some assistance?
So my intention for that was, I know you guys meet more generally as needed, but this serves to help me with availability. So I think you generally like Mondays at 5 PM, that's what I go with, but if there's any change in that, this would be an opportunity to sort of have it recorded, what are the general times you would like.
Since this is a Tuesday, this is an interesting day, so we like Mondays.
Exactly, exactly.
And Mike was coming on Wednesday.
It's my
Yeah.
opportunity to apologize, because
Oh, that's why. I
at the
put it in
last
here.
minute, I double checked the email and I saw Wednesday.
Mhm.
And I don't know why that was. Maybe there's something next Wednesday and I just didn't thoroughly scan my email.
So for this resolution, we'll say that the advisory design panel meet as needed. Daniel, you can, as needed,
If I could interject, Mondays aren't gonna work well because we won't have our counselor join us, since that's typically Mondays are your meetings, aren't they
Every
not?
second Monday is a council meeting starting at
6:15, but
6:15.
Yeah, I think we should stick, my experience is, this has been a quick one, because it's already basically, not so much, we've gotta talk about it, but it's fait accompli. They have already had their designs approved, and the rest of it, we will be doing them. Some of them go on, and you might miss your council meeting, so that's something to plan for.
We would typically go off site.
I mean, you might want to.
Like,
Right.
we would go different Mondays than council
Yeah.
normally.
Okay,
We
well.
don't have to decide that now.
we
No,
don't, but
no,
just
just
generally
help
5
staff.
PM is good. So
Wednesdays.
5 PM is a working-ish time.
It's a tight one,
It's
but
a,
yeah.
it's a good time.
Yeah. It's
Do you want to make it
later
5:15?
Goes later.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
And this,
No.
everyone being
Yeah.
hungry right now is really good.
Forces me to leave the office sooner.
It's true,
Yeah.
it's true. Obligation.
And run up the
Bye-bye.
hill.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So 5-ish weekdays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Earlier in the week probably than later in the week, is
Yeah.
what it usually seems like, so
Okay,
that's usually
good.
fine.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Just
I
never Thursdays, because I'm a scout leader, so I help some scouts.
Okay, so no Thursdays.
Okay,
No Thursdays.
So early, so
Yeah.
Monday to Wednesday.
okay.
Yeah,
'Cause I'm not
that's
doing
good.
Friday.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I would
That
probably
works.
go to
That's good for
council.
me.
If you have it on Monday, I'd probably step out and go to my council meeting.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, no, I just was thinking that if it was, sometimes we do have more than just a little bit of stuff on our
Oh, yeah.
plate. And it'd be better,
Yeah.
it's nice to have that
It's generally nice to have it in this room because of you guys in particular. We
Yeah,
are in
yeah.
that.
We did the distillery up there.
I know.
That was
Okay.
so weird. That was
Terrible. Yeah.
it was tripping over each other trying to hear what they were saying.
Yeah.
That was bad.
That was one of my first.
As my last,
It was summer.
my last action, I'm gonna say thank you all, but, can we adjourn the meeting?
Staying on as member though.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Can't go over that.
No, keep continuity.
And
So
Betty's
who
lucky
can I
she wasn't
vote?
here tonight, but we could have elected her as the chair.
Yeah.
Guess what?
Sorry, and then for our information items, because we haven't met in so long, the council had directed me to make sure that all committee members were apprised of the 2018 island survey. So that's linked, this is old news, but that's okay.
It's the last page, I saw that.
So you have access to
Right.
that, and
Right.
just to flag it for you, the conversation's really old, and then the community lands workshop report, it's all in there.
Okay.
Check it out.
All right. Okay. Thanks, everybody, for their comments and
Time.
And until next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone
Thanks,
had any
David.